So, new product announcement. We have a new brass slider, actually a couple different versions. We're going to call the Micro because it is tiny. It was actually something that I did just to test some machining. I wanted to try some different approaches to making things. And I wondered, what is the most minimalist slider I could make? So I had some 1-inch square brass bar stock and decided I would just design around that. So this is the smallest slider I've ever made. It's the only 4x2 slider I've ever made, and actually it's the only one I've ever played with. It does not have M52 magnets. It's got N35 magnets, but there's a reason for it. I actually wanted the magnets for the weight. Because of the skeletonized design, it's so light that I need the weight of the magnets to have some inertia. I originally did it with 5mm diameter magnets, and I switched to 6mm just to have the weight to help some of the movements. So this began as just an experiment, and I didn't intend to create a product with it. In fact, when I first picked it up and played with it, I thought, well, it's kind of neat, but it's not very fun. I didn't like it. And then I just sat there and played with it while I messed around with other things, and an hour later my thumb was sore. So I reconsidered the whole, do I like it or not? And I actually fell in love. So we have 3 different versions we're going to sell. The first Micro is the one I'm holding right now. It has a snakeskin texture around the outside. The faces are machined so that they'll lap together when you use it. So just use it, clean it, and it'll become smooth as butter. And these, kind of like our Robertson, the magnets are set at different depths. So on one side, the magnets are much deeper. On the other side, they're much closer to the surface. And what that gives you is 2 different magnet strengths, because this essentially puts the magnets further away when it's on the deep side. So the magnet strength is light. It's still strong enough to dangle from one corner, but if you get aggressive with it, you can get it to break loose. If you flip that over to the other side, and same with this one, now that's dangling from one magnet. I can probably, well, you get the idea. So the unequal magnet depth gives you those 2 different magnet strengths, which I really like for a variety of reasons. So the unequal Micro has a very strong side. If you want to play and make sure you're not going to drop it somewhere, if you need to make sure it doesn't end up on the floor or end up dropping and making noise during a conference call, that kind of thing, that's the side you want. And if you just like that feel, that's a very strong magnet side. On the other side, and you just move them just like that, you don't flip one over, I think I said that earlier, you just move them that way, and now it's got the easy magnet strength, and it feels great. It also means you have to be a little more precise and trains you to intentionally move the slider in the direction that you want it to go. So let's put this on hold for a moment. That's the unequal one, snakeskin, or diamond plate, depending on what you want to call it. The equal side one, the magnets are set to the same depth on both sides, which means it doesn't matter which way you orient them, it's going to be the same. And what that means is these are not as strong as the strong side on the unequal, but they're stronger than the soft side. If you want the strongest magnet strength possible, you want the unequal magnets. You want to have the ones that are closer. These, on the other hand, they're the same on both sides. It doesn't matter which way you orient them. And what that lets me do is it lets me combine up to 4 of them, and we're going to sell it in all 3 configurations. We'll sell the unequal magnets as a pair. You wouldn't want 4, although if you do, buy 2 sets. And then the equal magnet strength, because they work so well in sets of 4, we're going to sell them in sets of 2, like a normal slider, and in sets of 4. The outside machining on this is not the diamond shape. It's just 32 machined grooves around the outside for texture, decoration, and a little bit of tactile feedback. And they line up across the entire set of sliders. So it wouldn't actually matter how many of the equal magnet Micros you put together. it would just form a continuous spiral around them with 32 separate grooves. The thing that I fell in love with the micro was rotational things. So I'm going to try and hold this where you can see it. I like the laddering movements on a normal slider. So like on the Lowry, which I have this is a slightly modified version of the Lowry here. I like the laddering movements, but just pure rotational movements don't work very well because you have multiple magnets that are interfering when you try and do that. On the micro, I can just offset it by 1, and then I can take a thumb and just take one edge and rotate it around. And what I found myself doing was bringing it up and then around to one side, up, around to the other side. Then I'd go over to the side and bring it around the bottom, go over to the side, bring it around the top. They're very nice movements. It's very satisfying, and they're also movements that, back to that video conference or Zoom call, that if you want to do them silently, you can. You can easily take constant finger pressure and you can make that rotation in a way that no one on your call is going to be complaining. The symmetrical design also lets you do a couple of somewhat unique things. One of them is if you just take it and flip it over, it holds by the edges. So that's the two of them holding. But as I take one of them and just tilt it forward, it just snaps shut, which is kind of fun. It's not the kind of thing I would do all the time, but it is an interesting just dexterity test, that little snap right there. The other thing, because it's so small, I can actually push it up and tuck it back behind itself and snap it back down. And so I'm essentially moving the slider over and around itself, and the symmetry lets that work just fine. It does, I'm only going to take one attempt at this. It does do the flip that the Robertson does. I lied. I'm going to take 2 attempts at this. There we go. It will do the flip that Robertson does. In fact, because it's so light, I've gotten it to do a double flip, and I've caught that on video. That's most of what I do with it. The rotational stuff is just, you probably can't see that real well, but with the stack of 4, I can offset each one and then just bring each rotation down 90 degrees. It's very gratifying. The more these are used, the more the surface will wear into itself, and those two surfaces will kind of mate and make a very good sliding surface. I'm happy with it. I love it. One of the things I said when I started Bruce Charles was my standard was going to be, I was going to make things that I liked, and I like this. So this is the micro. There will be 3 different versions. We'll have them, should have them in the store on Friday. The unequal strength, keep in mind that means stronger and weaker. For the equal strength, all the same, and the equal strength is not weak. Again, I can dangle it by a corner and I can get it to break loose if I try. I don't think you'll be dissatisfied with the magnet strength. Dimensions, this is one of my favorite parts about it, is I can drop this in my pocket and it just is barely noticeable. I brought another Lowry out here. This is a Lowry that I experimented with without the finger grooves in it, and so it looks just perfectly smooth. And from a size comparison, this is just under 18 millimeters, almost 3/4 of an inch. And this is 4/10, actually less than 4/10 of an inch thick. So it's much thinner, it's much smaller, even extended. You can see it's smaller than Lowry, and even a stack of 4, maybe that's not an in your pocket every day type of thing, but just a normal set of 2, you can throw in your pocket and barely notice it. I love it. I hope other people do too, and I can't wait to hear what y'all think. It'll go in the store live Friday. Come take a look, and we're going to be doing a live stream on Tuesday, and we'll have a giveaway during that stream, at least 1 giveaway, hopefully more, that's the plan. And I'm also going to show some of the assembly process. If I have everything set up to do it, I'm going to try and press in a set of magnets, kind of show what that looks like. Every one of the magnets in these is pressed in by me. It's all done by hand in our shop here in Dallas, Texas. And we'll try and show that on the live. There will be a giveaway of a couple of things, and definitely come join us for that.